Stephen Panizza from Federation Asset Management. Welcome to the Alternative Symposium.
Hello, Drew. Glad to be here.
Can you expand on the investment philosophy of Federation?
Okay. Federation Asset Management is an alternate asset manager. We have three investment verticals: sustainable infrastructure, which is the vertical that I looked after. We have private equity or growth capital, and then we have a social real estate platform, which does real estate assets in the form of childcare centres is one REIT, and then specialist homes for Australians living with disabilities.
And could you expand a little bit more on that renewable sleeve and the kind of underlying assets that are in that?
Yes. So at the moment we have two assets that sit in the renewables side of the business. The first asset we acquired was WindLab. It was listed at the time. We acquired approximately 18% stake in that asset. We saw a good platform, good asset with some challenges in terms of its financing plan. So we acquired that largest single shareholding. We then put together a consortium with Squadron Energy, which is Andrew Forrest's private energy interests, and we privatised WindLab. We own 25% of it today, and Squadron Energy 75%.
And how important is that provision of additional capital to those companies to help them?
It's very important. So you had a good company with great capability. It had a heritage in the CSIRO, it's the wind science division. So there was a lot to like there. But the public markets are not the right destination for companies that are not ready. And we just felt the public markets didn't understand what WindLab didn't understand the geographic dispersion of the things that they did. So really what that transaction was about was taking it out of the public spotlight, applying additional capital. We in addition to the acquiring the business, we committed to fund $20 million of working capital for that business to consolidate and then to grow. And I'm pleased to say that it's doing very well now.
You've got an extensive background in investment and financial markets. How do you use that to differentiate your strategy within Federation?
Okay, interesting question. So the philosophy, the overall philosophy, I would say that we take with our institutional fund, the Sustainable Australian Real Asset Fund, or SARA, is a platforms and portfolios approach. And so rather than just lining up to bid on brownfield assets, against superannuation funds and against lower costs of capital, we're an energy transition fund. And we seek to drive that change. So to deploy capital to facilitate the energy transition. And the way we do that is with what we call platforms and portfolios approach. And that's about taking calibrated exposure to development risk through a platform. And that gives us two things. It gives us either contractual or privileged access to a pipeline of assets, but it also importantly gives us access to experts. So, world-class wind scientists, world-class grid engineers, development planning experts. And that is hugely beneficial and important to the business. The other element is that when we acquire it, once we've acquired an asset, you have to be active. Right? You can't be a passive investor in this business, in my view. Perhaps holding, completed, de-risked, contracted assets, but we tend to exit at that point. Our value add is to acquire well, to have that optionality through the platforms and portfolios approach, and then really apply our skill set to manage those assets through the construction, commissioning, de-risking, and operation phase.
And how's the opportunity set in renewables evolved over your career, or even the last 5 years, last 12 months? So
I can recall being a guest of GE at the 2008 Olympics, and they had a picture of a turbine. I said, "Wow, that's crazy. That's in 2008." Roll it forward, what's it, 15, 20 years? The investment opportunity for renewables is a once in a generation, once in a century opportunity. There is the requirement just to decarbonise our existing grid. The requirement for generation alone is 200 billion Australian dollars. And these are not my figures, that's the market operators' figures. Then add to that transmission, storage, and distribution, and you'll see that the total addressable market for renewables in Australia alone over the next 10 to 15 years is unprecedented.
Is there a specific part of that market where the greatest opportunities lie at the moment, or is
right now our slight bias is towards wind? We think, particularly in Queensland and New South Wales, there needs to be more wind come into the system, and of course we have WindLab with the capability and a platform to assist that. The other area of emerging criticality is storage. We acquired the Riverina battery energy storage system, 31st of May this year. That's a 150 megawatt 2-hour battery energy storage system. And that storage will play a critical role in the decarbonisation of the sector for two reasons. One, because it has that sort of smoothing effect on variable or intermittent renewable resources. And secondly, the more advanced battery energy storage technologies today can actually provide grid services which enable us to get greater capacity out of the existing grid. So for those two reasons, grid services and for parking electrons at the sort of quieter times of the day mean that that battery energy storage is also an excellent asset class and one very critical to the rest of the energy transition story.
Stephen Panizza, thank you.
Thank you very much.